So hello gamers, Counter-Strike 2 is finally out, and something I realized very recently is Counter-Strike has literally never had a video where it actually explains the stats of the guns. So in this video I'm going to explain all of those, like the fact that the 5.7 can one-hit kill headshot against armored opponents, and the fact that the Tech 9 and the Glock have the same one-hit kill head range against unarmored opponents. We'll talk about the differences between the P2000 and the USP-S, and go in depth on every single gun. So yeah, let's get into it. The first weapon we're going to cover is the Glock 18, an Austrian 9x19mm Parabellum handgun. If you've played CS at all, you probably know that Glock isn't the best for damage, but there are certain ways to maximize this gun's potential, especially on a pistol round. First, let's talk unarmored opponents. The Glock does 22 damage to the legs, and this is actually across all armor, because armor does not affect your leg hitbox, and we'll talk about that when we get to some of the later pistols. The next hitbox is the chest and arms, and this is what will deal the base damage of the weapon, which is only about 30 damage. So to the legs, this gun has a 5-hit kill. To the chest and arms, it will take 4. However, the stomach is actually a hitbox which takes increased damage, and in this case, it goes up to 37, meaning you can kill players with 3 hits to the stomach in close range. If your opponent has no helmet on, this weapon will deal 119 headshot, which is of course enough to kill a player up to 560 units with a single shot. Past that range, it will deal 99, and then lower than that, depending on the range, of course. The headshot kill range is the worst in class, but it's not really by that much, so it's pretty good. It's really not the best though. But then let's get on to armored opponents. Now the Glock does deal the same damage to the legs, of course, because legs are unaffected by armor. However, chest and arms goes down from 29 to 14. This makes the Glock an 8-hit kill to the chest, and the stomach is not much better at 17, which is 6 hits. And keep in mind, this is in point blank range with no damage drop, so you do deal more damage to the legs than the rest of the body. However, how good is the headshot damage? It's down to 56. It's not good. The reason the damage is lowered by over half is because the armor penetration of this weapon is only 47%, meaning you lose 53% of your damage if the player has armor and you hit them in the armor. And because this weapon loses 15% of its damage every 500 units, you can expect to get below that 50 damage threshold and 3-hit kill to the head against armor. So in conclusion, for damage, not good, but against unarmored, it's pretty good. So let's go over some of the upsides and the downsides of this weapon. The upsides are the fact that this weapon has a large magazine for a default pistol, has a massive reserve ammo pool tied for the most in class. It has a pretty fast rate of fire at 400 rounds per minute, and it has a 3-round burst function of 1,200 fire rate, which is, of course, the highest in the entire game. I'm not talking about just pistols. Any gun. It's the highest of any gun. It also has the lowest per shot recoil of any weapon in its class, and the overall damage against unarmored opponents is pretty good, and the running accuracy is pretty good as well. But let's talk downsides. This gun does not have great first shot accuracy. We'll talk about that later. Its armor penetration is of course very bad. It also loses a bunch of damage over range very quickly, and it usually takes 2 to 4 headshots against armor to kill. But let's talk recoil. It's not great, but it's really not too bad either. The per shot recoil is pretty low, but it does have quite a bit of spread to it once you start spamming, and you might need to spam depending on the range and the armor of your opponent. Honestly, the gun has basically no recoil even if you're spamming it, so don't really worry about it unless you're using the burst function. But the way to control the recoil on the burst is very fun. Basically, you just flick down just a tiny bit, but very quickly during the burst. So fire the first shot and then immediately pull down. This is going to be like 0.04 seconds that you have to wait, but you have to wait just a tiny bit of time and then pull down. I really like controlling the burst, not that I use it personally in-game, but it's very fun to control. Overall playstyle with the Glock, use it on pistol round only. That's all I recommend. And honestly, even if you're gonna full eco, if you're after round 1 and your opponent probably will have armor, do not, I repeat, do not just stick with the Glock. Buy something better. I'm not saying you have to go all the way on like a deagle or even a primary weapon, but buy something, dude. P250, 300 bucks. We'll talk about it in a bit. Overall, if you ever find yourself using this gun, it probably should be because you already tagged a guy with the op or hit a guy a couple times with the AK or something like that, and they're pretty low. If somebody's full health and you really have to use this gun, go for cover instead. The first shot accuracy of the weapon is also pretty mid, but like it's not the worst you've ever seen. I do not recommend you tap this gun at range, considering you can't one-hit kill people anyway, so you may as well get closer and then spam a little bit more. The burst function, I wish it was good, but it's really not. It's not very good. It is an underrated function of the weapon. I don't think it's completely unusable. In fact, if you hit the the entire burst to the head, the gun has incredible time to kill considering it's a free gun. If you hit the 3-shot burst, all headshots, you will kill an armored opponent very quickly. I think they should probably buff the burst and make it a little bit less RNG dependent and make it probably overall a lot more vertical only recoil, so that way it actually becomes somewhat viable. Right now, the Glock burst is kind of a meme. But next up we have the USP-S and the P2000. Both of these pistols are 9x19mm handguns developed by H&K in Germany. And overall, since they're so similar, I'm just going to be comparing them together. First, let's talk damage. Well, against unarmored opponents, you're going to find this gun to be very good. To the legs, this weapon does 26 damage, meaning it's a 4-hit kill legs. However, if the gun is dropping any damage, it will not be a 4-hit kill anymore. So don't really rely on leg shots. However, to the chest and arms, this weapon does 35 damage, which means if you're in close range, this weapon will 3-hit kill to the chest, which is really nice. This is not very common because it also will lose it very quickly. However, this weapon does 43 damage stomach, so hit a couple of chests and a single stomach, and this weapon will kill with 3 shots to a pretty solid range. And to the head, this weapon does 140 damage, meaning that the 1-hit kill range of this weapon on unarmored opponents is about 1,700 units, which is very far, basically all ranges. This is one of the main reasons why this weapon is so much better than the Glock. But yeah, both the USP-S and the P2000 have an extremely far 1-hit kill range. But let's talk armored damage. This weapon does 26 damage to the legs, being a 4-hit kill still, but not very far. It does 17 to the chest, which is a 6-hit kill and probably down to a 7 or an 8 depending on the range. And to the stomach, it does 22, being a 5-hit kill up close. However, this weapon still does 70 damage against armored opponents with a single headshot, meaning that you will be able to kill with 2 headshots very, very far, especially considering the range fall off of this weapon is not as far. It's 0.91 instead of 0.85, meaning that you only lose 9% of your damage instead of 15. But let's talk recoil, and this is where the two guns begin to differ. The USP-S has a little bit more horizontal recoil but lower vertical, versus the P2000, which goes up a little bit more but has a little bit less side-to-side recoil, meaning that the P2000 is more consistent if you can pull down and actually land a perfect headshot. But because the USP-S is accurate enough, most people will prefer the USP-S in terms of recoil. In terms of first shot accuracy though, the USP is kind of just better. The real advantage of the P2000 is the fact that it has 1 extra round in a magazine and a much larger reserve ammo pool. The USP only has 24 rounds in reserve and only a 12-round magazine versus 13 and 52, which is quite a big difference. And it has the advantages of a suppressor, meaning that it doesn't have any bullet tracers and it's much quieter. And if you're wondering about the suppressor, don't take it off. There's really no reason to. You basically get a little bit less like ladder accuracy. It doesn't really matter. So which one should you use? Personally, I would say the USP. However, the P2000 is really not that much worse. In fact, it might be better. In terms of accuracy, they're similar enough to be basically the same. And if you pull down with the P2000 a little bit more, I do think the P2000 is actually more accurate. However, the USP is just suppressed. And the real advantage here is the suppressor or the more ammo. If you run out of ammo during a pistol round, I do recommend using the P2000. But if you rarely find yourself running out of magazines, I don't recommend it. So if you like spamming through smokes and things, then do use the P2000. Otherwise, the USP is kind of just a little bit better, but they're very similar. The Berretas are a set of Italian-made pistols, these two possibly being the M9A1. To the legs, they deal 28, being a 4-hit kill. To the chest, they deal 37, being a 3-hit kill. And to the stomach, they deal 46, also being a 3-hit kill, but almost a 2-hit. And when you deal a headshot, these weapons deal 150 damage, giving them a respectable 1-hit kill range of 900 units. The reason they don't kill that far is because they don't really have the best range, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But let's talk armored damage, which is a lot better than you'd expect. The leg damage of these weapons is still 28, as said before, being a 4-hit kill. To the chest, they deal 21, which is still a 5-hit kill. And to the stomach, they still do 26, which is still a 4-hit kill. Better yet, to the head, these weapons deal 86 damage against armored opponents. And with that information, you would probably expect me to recommend these against armored opponents, considering you can kill with 1 headshot and 1 body shot. But that's really not the case necessarily. And the big reason for that is because these have the worst range of any pistol in the entire game, tied with the Tech 9. They lose 21% of their damage per 500 units, which is 1/5, and that's going to lower your damage quite a bit. I do not recommend these weapons against any armored opponents, but let's talk recoil. These weapons are very, very easy to understand in terms of recoil. However, they can be kind of hard to actually use effectively, especially when spamming, which is what they're good for. The recoil basically just goes up and then kind of stops a little bit after a while, but yeah, it goes up quite a bit. They kind of have the highest vertical recoil of any pistol, not per shot, but because they fire so quickly. However, there are weapons with a lot less accuracy when spamming, and these are great for spamming if you can pull down. The first shot accuracy is also kinda not great, so don't really use them over range. The upsides of these weapons is, one, they're cheap. They're $300, which is the least expensive pistol tied with the P250, not counting the starter pistols, of course. They have the largest in-class capacity and tied for most reserve ammo. Their recoil is very predictable, their base damage is very high, and their fire rate is very, very high. The downsides are the slow reload time of about 3.7 seconds, the bad first shot accuracy, and the large damage fall off. These are not great weapons past the pistol round, but for the pistol round, they are kind of the best in the entire game. If you're a CT, buy these, buy a nade, go to B-side on Mirage, throw the nade, and then mow down the entire team. It's very, very good for holding any kind of close range sights, because on the first round, chances are it's going to be 5 people. You can usually get, 2 or 3 kills, even if they overwhelm you, but it's going to be a lot easier than a slow firing USP. Overall, I do recommend these weapons quite a bit, but do not use them unless it's the first round, and unless you're playing close range, because as I said, terrible damage fall off will kill you from range. The P250 is an American 9x19mm Parabellum or maybe 45 ACP handgun developed by Sig Sauer. For translating price into usefulness, this is probably the best weapon in the entire game because it's only $300. So let's talk damage. So to the legs, it does 28, to the chest and arms, it does 38, and to the stomach and pelvis, it does 47. This is because it has the same base damage of 38 as the dual Berretas. However, we'll talk about the armor pen. To the head, this weapon does 151. It has nearly the same one-hit kill head range against unarmored opponents as the Desert Eagle. It kills very far against unarmored. Against armored opponents, it still does 28 legs, of course. It does 24 to the chest and arms, being a 5-hit kill, 30 to the stomach and pelvis, being a 4-hit kill, and 96 damage headshot against armored opponents in close range. Because this weapon has a range modifier of 0.9, this basically allows it to kill with 1 headshot and 1 body shot against armored opponents. And for the price of $300, yeah, it's pretty good. But let's talk recoil and first shot accuracy. So the recoil is pretty bad if you spam it. It has a lot more recoil than pretty much every gun we've seen so far. Yes, the dual Berretas kind of have more vertical, but they are way more controllable in terms of understanding where they're going. The P250 is not for spamming at all unless you're very, very close. However, the fire rate is the same as the Glock at 400, which is pretty solid. The first shot accuracy is, of course, not very good though, but I do recommend tapping people, especially on pistol rounds, considering the headshot damage is so good. It won't be perfect, but it's enough to do the job. The upsides of this weapon are that it's very cheap, it has a very high base damage, the armor penetration is solid at 64%, it one-hits very far against no armor, and against armored opponents, it's very good at killing with 1 head and 1 body. The downsides are the high recoil, poor first shot accuracy, and the fact that the magazine size and reserve ammo are only 13 and 26 respectively, which makes it pretty poor for spamming, but it's not really a spamming gun anyway. Overall, yes, very, very good. The Tech-9 is another 9x19mm Parabellum American handgun. Luckily, that's the last time I will say that for this video. First, let's talk damage. This weapon does 24 damage to the legs, which is a 5-hit kill, which considering its price is not very great because the weapon is $500, meaning it's significantly more expensive than the P250. To the chest, this weapon does 32, which is still a 4-hit kill maximum to the chest, which is again worse than the P250. This weapon does 40 damage to the stomach, being a 3-hit kill. However, so is the P250. And finally, to the head, this weapon does 130, which is significantly lower than the P250. Not to mention that this weapon has a range modifier of 0.79, which is tied for the worst in the entire game with the dual Berretas, meaning this weapon has about the same one-hit kill head range as the Glock 18. So why is it good? Why is it expensive? I'll just show you why in a second. Now for armor, to the legs, this weapon does 24 again. To the chest, it does 29, which is more than the P250. To the stomach, it does 36, being a 3-hit kill to the stomach against armor, which the P250 can't do. And finally, to the head, this weapon does 118 damage against armor. And that's because this weapon has a armor penetration rate of 90.2, meaning up to about 300 units, which is decently far. This weapon can one-hit kill head even on armor. And that's why this weapon has so much damage drop and it does so little base damage, is because it's all to make it a little bit more balanced around the fact that it can one-hit kill head in close range, even against armor. But let's talk recoil with this weapon. The recoil pattern of the Tech 9 is very, very random. I do not recommend you fire this weapon too quickly and instead go for tapping unless you seriously have to. And that's because this weapon has by far the best running accuracy in the entire game. As you can see here, it has perfect accuracy as you are moving, meaning that if you're tapping and not letting the recoil come in, you can hit consistent headshots over very far range while moving. But because the damage drop is very high, you're not going to really be doing that too much. However, the first shot accuracy of the Tech 9 is very good as well, meaning this weapon is a very, very good buy if you're low in cash and you want a weapon to go against a rifle. It won't beat a rifle at medium range, however, in close range, since it can one-shot, it really might. The upsides of this weapon are, of course, the incredible running accuracy, the very high armor penetration, the one-hit potential against armored opponents, the very high rate of fire at 500, the solid ammo capacity at 18 with 90 in reserve, and the great tapping potential. The downsides are the price being 500, the unpredictable recoil, the terrible damage fall-off over range, the fact that the one-hit kill against unarmored is very, very bad for its price, and the fact that it has a smaller magazine and a little bit more recoil than the 5.7. Overall, I kind of recommend this weapon, but not on pistol round. The fact that you can't one-hit kill farther than a Glock really is not good. And if you're going for body shots on pistol round, I mean, yeah, I guess you could use it for that, but I do really recommend you just use like a Glock or a P250 and go for the head over spamming body shots, but that's just me. If you're missing a lot of headshots, then I guess you could use this on pistol round, but it's very expensive. But next up we have the 5.7, a Belgian 5.7 by 28mm handgun, which very well might be the best overall in the entire game. First, let's talk about the damage of this weapon. Its base damage is 31 instead of the Tech 9's 33, however, overall the damage is going to be very similar. To the legs, this weapon does deal 23, which is a 5-hit kill. To the chest and arms, it does 31, a 4-hit kill, and to the stomach, it does 39, which is a 3-hit kill. Of course, to the head, it can kill, but not very far, and overall, this weapon is very similar in terms of damage profile to the Tech 9. However, the range modifier is 0.81 instead of 0.79, meaning the damage drop is 2% less, so it's really overall very similar in terms of one-hit kill range. Against armor, it is once again a 5-hit kill to the legs, a 4-hit kill to the chest, a 3-hit kill to the stomach, and a 1-hit kill to the head. The overall hits to kill are exactly the same between the two of them, and the ranges for those hits to kill are very similar as well. But let's talk about the recoil of this weapon. The recoil is very, very high in terms of vertical recoil, but not much else. This makes the gun much more accurate in terms of spamming as opposed to the Tech 9. However, when it comes to its running accuracy, it is nowhere near as good as the Tech 9. In fact, it's not very good at all. Obviously, since they're on opposite teams, you can't have both of them or really decide between the two of them, but if you have a 5.7 and you see a Tech 9 on the ground, it's really up to you which one you want to take. Do you want to be more mobile and have a little bit less accuracy and have to tap more, or do you want to be more accurate but more slow? Personally, I think they both fit the role of their team very well. The upsides of the 5.7 are its magazine capacity, its very high armor penetration, which is slightly more than the Tech 9 at 91.15 versus 90.2, so not really that big of a difference. It's very predictable recoil and its fast reload time of only 2.2 seconds. Its downsides are very similar to the Tech 9, however, it does have a slower rate of fire than the Tech 9 and worse running accuracy. The CZ75 is a Czech 9x19mm parabellum machine pistol because it's automatic. It's a weapon that I don't really care about, but yeah, we gotta cover it in the video because it is one of the pistols. For sure, it is one of them. The CZ75 does 23 damage to the legs, being a 5-hit kill, which is not that great. It does 30 to the chest, which is a 4-hit kill, and it does 38 to the abdomen, which is a 3-hit kill. Yay! It also does 123 damage to the head, which is of course going to be a 1-hit kill. However, the fatal headshot range is only 661 units, which is only about 100 farther than the Glock. So not that far. And this weapon is the same price as a Tech 9, so what is the range like, and what is the armor pen like? Well, the armor pen is 77.7%, which is good. It also has the same range modifier as a Glock at 0.85, which is not good range. And since it's the same price as a 5.7 or Tech 9, let's talk about what it does to armor. To the legs, it still does 23, which is a 5-hit kill. To the chest and arms, it does 23, which is a 5-hit kill. And to the abdomen, it does 29, which is a 4-hit kill. And last up, to the head, it does 95, which is less than a P250 and not a one-hit kill. It must be good because you can use it auto. It's great. Okay, well, we'll talk about that. So how do you control the recoil pattern of the CZ75? Well, this one actually has a real recoil pattern, which is basically it goes slightly up and to the left and then goes super far to the right. So to control it, go slightly to the right and then go down and to the left. Will this fix the gun's recoil? No, because it has a lot of RNG. But yeah, outside of close range, this weapon will not kill anyone, even in like kinda close range. If you're not doing the recoil pattern correctly and just getting a little lucky, this gun will not be able to kill anyone. And the fact that it has such bad range and it might be like a 6-hit kill, but only has 12 rounds is pretty considering it has, you know, 12 rounds and 600 RPM, which is really fast. So you're gonna be dumping your magazine pretty quickly with not that many returns. The upsides of the CZ75 is that it's automatic and the rate of fire is high. That's kind of about it. For its downsides, it has a small magazine capacity of 12, a small reserve ammo capacity of only 1 extra mag, so 12. The draw time is extremely long, so it's a bad secondary to a primary weapon. The damage is very low for its price. The armor pen is pretty low for its price. And if you manage to get a kill with it, guess what? You only get $100 instead of $300. The kill reward is only 1/3 of the other pistols because they decided, you know what? It's gotta be terrible. It is a fun gun and it's very, very good if you're just like corner camping and you kill one guy and get his gun. It's for that basically, but it really just isn't that great for that considering like 5.7, same price, hit them once in the head. It is pretty cool that the DPS is very, very high. The armor pen is pretty good and the fact that it's full auto, but other than that, it is really not that good. So for anybody in the comments being like, well, the CZ75 is very good because you could just tap the gun. Like you don't have to use the auto. Well, if you're not going to use the auto, then use the 5.7. It's the same price and it just does the same thing, dude. In fact, it does it way better considering the RPM when tapping is going to be very, very similar. And the 5.7 has better recoil. It does more damage. It has better armor pen. It has a faster reload time. It has a faster draw time. It has more reserve ammo. It has a larger magazine. It does more damage to the head. I don't know. There's literally no reason to use this gun. I'm sorry if you're a CZ fan, but nobody really is. I'm sorry. I mean, I wish it was better. I love the CZ in other games, but yeah, that's all I have to say for this. Did a little bit of a rant for this one, but please buff it, Valve. But next up we have the R8, which is a revolver chambered in .357 Magnum and developed by Smith & Wesson. The damage profile in this weapon is very goofy, we'll talk about it. To the legs, this weapon deals 64 damage, being a 2-hit kill. To the chest and arms, it does 86, and to the abdomen, it does 107, being able to 1-hit kill to the abdomen. Yes, it used to be able to do that on armor, but luckily it no longer is able to. To the head, this weapon does 343 damage, and it has a 1-hit kill range of about 9,000 units, which is more than double the range that a bullet can actually travel in this game without just despawning, because no map is like larger than 3,000 units, and 3,000 is like out of render distance. I think the farthest you can really see is like 2,000, and that's like Aeon Dust 2. That's very, very far. When it comes to armored targets though, this weapon is still very, very potent, because once again, 64 damage to the legs, but 79 to the chest and arm still, and 99 to the abdomen, which is almost a one-tap. Will it one-tap? Well, technically no, but if somebody has taken any damage at all, it will, which is amazing. And the weapon still does 319 headshots, so yes, it will still kill. But let's talk recoil on this weapon. Well, it kind of fires very slow because you have to charge up in between shots, so you really never have to worry about recoil on this weapon, especially considering the movement accuracy is very, very good. But if you want the RPM to go from like 50 or whatever to 150, you can use the alt fire using mouse 2 or right click. However, this fire has basically no range at all. If you literally have your barrel inside of, if you have your barrel like up to a dude's chest, yes, it will hit them. However, other than that, it will not, because this weapon has terrible spread if you're using the secondary fire, which is unfortunate. I do feel like it should have a little bit less spread to it because it is genuinely unusable and all RNG dependent, which for a game that's so competitive, it doesn't really work. You can't really have a gun like that in a competitive video game. Unfortunately, the alt fire is completely out of the question basically every single time you use it. When it comes to first shot accuracy, the default fire is very, very accurate, and the alt fire is not good, as you could probably expect. The upsides of this weapon are the fact that it has the highest damage in class, one more round in its cylinder than the Desert Eagle. It has high movement accuracy. It can 1-hit kill to the abdomen against unarmored, and it will basically 2-shot in any scenario. The downsides are the fact that you have to hold down the trigger in order to shoot. Your walk speed is slowed down when you're firing, and the alt fire is very, very inaccurate. The playstyle for this weapon is hit them in the head, and it's good then, I guess. The only real advantage in game is the fact that you can run and shoot it at the same time to very solid success. However, good movement and the deagle is going to be always better than this this weapon because it just can't fire that quickly. If you hit the head, it's pretty solid, but the fact that when you're using your primary fire, you slow down, it can mess with lining headshots up while moving. Overall, is it really necessary to use this over the deagle? Not really, but it is pretty cool. Also, a very large downside of the weapon is that it only has 8 rounds in reserve, so 1 extra mag. No, not mag. Yes, it can one-hit kill to the abdomen against unarmored opponents, but usually people just buy body armor. In the pistol round, every gun is a one-shot headshot anyway, so don't use it. And on eco rounds, I guess this is less money than deagle, but the deagle is worth that extra $100. I'm not gonna lie, just don't use it. It is pretty fun to use, but it's really not good. I think they should buff it somehow, maybe reduce the time to fire. The Desert Eagle is an Israeli 50 Action Express handgun with an ammo capacity of only 7 rounds. So first, let's talk damage. It's weird. To the legs, this weapon does 39, being a 3-hit kill, not a 2-hit kill. To the chest, it does 52, which is barely a 2-hit kill, and to the stomach it does 65, which is very comfortably a 2-hit kill. With a headshot against unarmored, of course, it will deal 205, and it can 1-hit kill headshot to 2,200 units. But let's talk armor. This weapon does 39 damage to the legs against armor, being a 3-hit kill. It does 49 to the chest, which is barely not a 2-hit kill, but it's not a 2-hit kill, still a 3. And to the stomach, it does 61, which is comfortably a 2-hit kill. And of course, to the head, this weapon still does 191 against armored opponents, which is still a 1-hit kill. You knew that already. The rate of fire of this weapon is 267 rounds per minute, which is very fast considering the damage. So to counteract this, they basically made the gun have a ton of RNG in terms of recoil and very high overall recoil. If you want to spam this gun, I guess pull down to the right a little bit. It has a tendency to go to the left, but it goes back and forth, just a little bit more to the left. Overall, the best way to use this gun with the recoil is to not care about the recoil and just go for tap fire shots. Don't really care about recoil, okay? To practice tapping with this weapon, just count 1, 2, 3, 4 like that, and that should be enough to very, very accurately hit headshots. Past that rate of fire though, no, you're not going to. The range modifier of this weapon is actually 0.85, the same as the Glock and much worse than the Revolver, which will make the gun probably a 3-hit to maybe a 4-hit kill depending on the range. However, if you're not hitting leg shots, this weapon should be a 3 and maybe a 2-hit kill in most scenarios, and that is with body shots. With the headshots, of course, it will always be a 1-hit kill unless you're over 2,000 units away, which is like, come on, dude, just don't even shoot him from that range. Not that you're going to get that range in this game, but yeah. The first shot accuracy is, of course, very, very good, and it is a very good weapon for tapping. However, do I recommend this gun? Well, not on pistol round, because every other pistol is already a one-shot. This is 100% a weapon for ecoing, or decoing, as some people like to do, which is basically just buy a deagle, maybe armor, but then if you buy a deagle and armor, it's kind of expensive, so just buy a deagle. But yes, I do recommend this weapon, not on a pistol round, if you're decent. If you can hit your headshots, it's good, and the price of this weapon is 700, which sounds like, okay, it's not that much more than 500, right? But that's only 300 less than something like the Mac 10, which could be a much better gun depending on how you're playing it. Overall, is this the best pistol in the game? I'd say the 5.7 is slightly better overall, but when it comes to long range and hitting headshots, of course, this one is better. Anyways, that's going to do it for the video. Let me know down in the comments what I should change for the next episode of this video, and if you wanted more recoil pattern stuff, well, most of the pistols don't even have a recoil pattern. The only two that actually do is the Revolver and the CZ. Other than that, they really just have RNG recoil that is a value, but not a particular pattern. So they just kind of like go up and then do whatever they want. However, in future episodes, of course, I will be talking about recoil patterns more, and subscribe for episode 2, which will be rifles, yes, like AK and stuff, but I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Have a nice day.